What's going on, guys? Jeremy here with Gun Mag Warehouse. And today we're going to do something a little different, okay? It's kind of like one of those blind taste tests, except it's going to be a test for your vision. Now, I know a blind vision test doesn't make much sense, but just bear with me. What we're going to do is we're going to take 3 separate weapon lights, all of which we sell, shameless plug, and we're going to compare them feature by feature. I'm going to show you a little bit of what the light looks like at about 7 yards and all the way out to about 100 yards and let you come to your own conclusion, your own decision. But without further ado, let's get right into it. These lights do have a lot in common, which is why we chose to compare them. They all have LED technology, an aluminum housing, IPX7 waterproof rating, toolless installation, ambidextrous strobe, momentary and constant on-off controls, Picatinny rail mounts, and are assembled in the USA. Now here is where they differ. Starting with light A, it has up to 1 hour and 15 minutes of battery life, a 1000 lumen maximum output. Lumens is a measure of the total amount of visible light emitted by a source, which comes from the LED chip inside. So different lights with the same lumens might have different performance based on the design and lens quality. 11,300 candela. Candela is the power emitted by a light source in a particular direction, so this should give us a better idea about how much light we can throw at range. It's got a 213 meter beam range, uses 2 CR123A batteries, measures 3.6 inches, weighs 4.1 ounces, and costs roughly $329. Light B has up to 1 hour and 30 minutes of battery life, a 1000 lumen maximum output, 20,000 candela, and a 283 meter beam range. It uses 2 CR123A batteries, measures 3.39 inches, weighs 4.32 ounces, and costs roughly $160. Light C has up to 1 hour and 45 minutes of battery life, a 1200 lumen maximum output, 9,379 candela, a 194 meter range, uses 2 CR123 batteries, which are technically different from CR123As, but also extremely similar. You should be able to use CR123A batteries interchangeably, but I'd recommend using the specific light the manufacturer suggests. It measures 3.75 inches, weighs 5.4 ounces, and costs roughly $129. Now let's take a look at the actual light performance themselves. With light A, we can see a strong center beam and decent flood to the other targets. It's not super clear where the flood or center beam starts and ends. What we want to see from a good weapon light is firstly a strong center beam. This is what's going to push out at a distance and provide the most power from the light, as well as have a blinding effect on the target. The other thing we want to see is a halo effect, which is more of what we would call the flood of the light beyond the center beam. Now with light B, the center beam and flood is noticeably brighter. Remember, I don't want to only see what I'm pointing at, I also want to see some of the area around what I'm pointing at. It allows us to get a better understanding of our surroundings and make better decisions. So, as we are watching the performance of these lights, be thinking about how easy it would be to determine if the other targets are threats or not. This is light C. It's harder to tell if this one's brighter than light B, but it seems to be brighter than light A. However, it is easy to see the difference between the center beam and the flood around it. We even have a solid halo effect where the light clearly ends. We are 7 yards away from the targets, which is a good distance for a defensive situation with a pistol. And since most threats are working in groups, it's necessary to be able to see as much of the scene as possible. Let's quickly look at lights A, B, and C and see the color difference between them. Now A compared to B, and A compared to C. Finally, we have B compared to C. All of these lights have a beam range of over 200 yards, so let's go outside and see their performance at a distance. Starting, of course, with light A at a distance of 100 yards, the target is barely seen. I cannot tell if our target is armed or what he's wearing, and this backlight could be causing me to have a hard time with the PID. This is light B at 100 yards, and it is significantly better. I still can't see all the details I need, like what he's wearing or holding, but this light is certainly brighter in the center beam. You can tell we have supplemental light from the surrounding buildings, which is not ideal, but they should be making this light's job easier. Now with light C, it is brighter than light A, but not as bright as light B. It has clearer flood than light B, but the center beam does not look as bright. I still can't determine what our target is wearing or holding, so at this distance, I would not be comfortable pulling the trigger. So let's move to 50 yards and see what changes. From this distance with light A, I can tell our target is wearing a black tracksuit and his hands are mostly visible. Light B at 50 yards is noticeably brighter, and I'm able to see something on the ground next to the target which looks like a soda can. I can get the same information as light A from this distance, but it is a bit brighter. Light C is definitely brighter than light A, but not as bright as light B. It also seems to be a bit more blue than the other two lights, but I'm not sure what the implications of that would actually be. Our target confirmed that from his perspective, light B was the brightest, then light C, and light A was the least bright. Here is the comparison chart one more time, but now we're going to tell you which light was which. Light A was the Surefire X300UA, light B was the Streamlight TLR1 HL, and light C was the Nightstick TWM30. Other than their light performance, there are operational features that matter as well. So, starting with the Surefire X300UA, it uses a latch system on the battery compartment. Simply pressing down this button on the bottom rear side allows you to open up the battery compartment, swap those batteries out. Then you just got to press it back closed. Simple as that. Now, it does use an articulating button system on the rear. So as you see, if I push up and lock it, this bottom one comes down. If I push up on the other side, it'll do the same thing for your constant on, and this side comes down. Now, if I want to do a momentary on, I will push directly in, and as soon as I let go, that light comes off. Now, obviously, Surefire's been around for the longest, so Surefire has the most aftermarket options if you wanted to swap these batteries out or anything like that. And as far as mounting goes, there's two tabs on each side that allows you to press this center piece out of the way, get it slid onto your rail, and then release it to lock it in place. Now, the TLR1 HL is very similar to the Surefire, but also different. So same, but different. It does have a latch system. You'll have to take this light off, flip up the little tab, which will break the seal, and then you are opened up to your battery compartment down there on the side. It has a little hook down here at the bottom. So in order to put it back on, you just lock the bottom piece, press the top, and make sure everything's lined up. Hang on, make sure everything's lined up, and flip that latch closed. The buttons on the TLR1 are articulating just like the Surefire, but it behaves a little bit differently. There's no pushing here, so pushing doesn't do anything. If you push up on the left, that'll be your constant on, and if you push down on the right, obviously you see that they articulate, then you'll have your constant on there as well. Now, obviously on the other side, if I pushed up on the right, that's going to be my momentary on, and down on the left, that's going to be my momentary on as well. If I push twice on this, that's what's going to activate the strobe feature. But otherwise, the articulating thing can be good for some people. Once you learn it, it's pretty easy to get the hang of. But under stressful situations, I know for sure I've activated this when I didn't really want to. For example, if I were to go strong hand or weak hand only shooting a pistol, I don't want to have to think about which direction I have to flip this thing in order to flip it and then go to the trigger. So that can be kind of annoying, I guess, but if you train with something enough, you'll get used to it and you won't really have that many problems regularly. Now, the Nightstick doesn't have a latch for the rear battery compartment. It's just going to be this top screw right here. So you unscrew that, take it off, put your batteries in. Pretty much that simple. Screw it back in to the tightness that you so desire. As tight, PFT, you know, pretty freaking tight. As tight as you can get it without stripping your screw or whatever, but you don't need me to tell you that. Now, the buttons on the back side are actually really simple. So regardless of whether you push down or push in, tapping it once will, on either side, will be your constant on, whether you press down or in, and holding it is what gives you the momentary on. So if you hold it for a little while and then you let go, then that's going to be your momentary on. Now this, obviously they all have strobe and everything else as well, but these batteries are really tactile, really simple, and they're not articulating. So they're separate pieces, so I can push down on either side or push in on either side and get the same sort of performance from the switches. So from an ease of use standpoint, I like these a lot. It also has a very similar profile to the TLR 1. However, it is 3/16 of an inch longer, I believe. I guess you can quote me on that if you want to. I'm willing to be wrong. It's a slightly longer weapon light, but overall very similar profile, very similar light overall. So I hope you guys were able to see something that you maybe hadn't seen before, especially with the light presentations themselves. I don't really care which one you want to get. You know, whatever your heart's desire decides on, I'm happy with it. As long as you get them from gunmagwarehouse.com, I'll be happy. Thanks for watching. Thanks for shopping with us. Stay free.